Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. This is, not surprisingly, Outkick the Show. Several different big stories to get to. Bryce Harper signing the biggest contract in the history of American team sports. We're going to get to it in a moment, break it down. What does it all mean? Jason Witten stuns everybody and runs it's back to the Dallas Cowboys, $3.5 million for 1 year. Who gets Monday Night Football? We will talk about who his replacement might be. Kyler Murray is 5'10". I think he's going to be the overall #1 draft pick in the NFL. I'll tell you why. And our boy Robert Kraft, 77 years old, has pled not guilty to his solicitation charges down in Florida. But we began with the news of Bryce Harper's contract. And I want to put this into context historically and then also break it down in a numbers basis. These are the 5 largest contracts ever signed in the history of American pro sports. Bryce Harper, I think it's clear to everyone out there who has been paying attention to this at all, wanted to make the most money in the history of American team sports. That's what he was after. That's why ultimately he signed a 13-year deal, which will keep him in Philadelphia until he is 38 years old. All right? Bryce Harper, $330 million to the Philadelphia Phillies, 13-year deal. That's an average of $25.4 million per year. All right? $25.4 million per deal per year. A lot of people are going to focus on the total value of this deal, the $330 million aspect of it. I would tell you guys the better point that you should be focused on is the length of time and the dollar figure per year. $25 million per year is nowhere near the highest contract ever in the history of pro sports on a per year basis. Most people are going to focus on the total. They're not going to focus on the per year basis. And I think it's the per year that makes a lot more sense. And I hate to be after taxes guy or inflation guy, but when you also look at these numbers, you have to consider them in the context of the fact that money signed in 1990 is not the same as 2019 or anything else, all right? So Bryce Harper has signed the biggest contract in the history of sports. Giancarlo Stanton, $325 million to the Yankees, just behind. Manny Machado, 10-year, $300 million deal. And by the way, Machado's 10-year, $300 million a year is actually a lot more money on a year-to-year basis, okay? And then we have Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod got $275 million from the Yankees. And before that, A-Rod also got $250 million from the Rangers and the Yankees. The 2 of the 5 biggest, most lucrative contracts of all time are for A-Rod, and he also ended up with J-Lo, who doesn't age. A-Rod living life better than almost all of us. But I think, again, this story in general is about the focal point of how much money Bryce Harper wants to make. He wanted to break the bank. He wanted to set an all-time record, and that is why he has asked for $330 million. I actually think this isn't that bad of a contract for the Philadelphia Phillies, especially on the back end of this deal as all the inflation starts to work in and everything else. $25.4 million per year because Bryce Harper is still so young. 26 to 38, a no-trade clause as a part of the deal. No-trade clause guy loves to dive in here and say nobody can ever leave. I think this is actually not that bad of a deal for the Phillies. I'm curious what the dollars that the Dodgers put on the table were. I'm curious to hear what everybody else offered along the way here. But I honestly, this is not the record-breaking contract that I thought we would see. It also makes me wonder, how much money is Mike Trout going to get? Mike Trout is a much better player than Bryce Harper. He's maybe, if you look at all the statistics, maybe the greatest baseball player of all time, honestly, based on all the numbers that are out there. I'm genuinely intrigued to see what Mike Trout is going to be capable of. Now, Mike Trout hasn't looked like the kind of guy who is driven by money as much as Bryce Harper is. Again, this was all about trying to set an all-time number. And I don't know what the total number is going to be, but I would think that whatever it is, Mike Trout is going to shatter it whenever he gets to free agency. So yeah, he could, in 2 years, he could get $40 million a year. But again, to me, what you look at is the dollars per year. And Bryce Harper got $25.4 million per year. He will now be with the Eagles, with the Phillies, from the age of 26 to 38, 13 years, no trade clause. The way I look at this is Bryce Harper will be with the Philadelphia Phillies until I'm 52 years old. I'm going to be old by the time he comes down. A couple of other stats that are out there that are interesting. Darren Ravel put these together. $44,929 per plate appearance for Bryce Harper on average over the course of this deal. $156,695 per game. Again, Bryce Harper for the next 13 years will make over $150,000 per game, which is pretty unbelievable. It's extraordinary. Congrats to Bryce Harper. He's going to live a pretty good life, I would say. And I disagree. People who are out there saying baseball players are overpaid, this is a business. And baseball as a business locally dominates. Baseball in local regional markets dominates. It doesn't have the national cachet of the NBA, for instance. But if you look at head-to-head numbers in baseball markets compared to NBA markets, I think it was like 90% of the cities with both a baseball and an NBA team, the baseball team dunks all over the NBA team in terms of the ratings, and they play twice as many games. So a lot more people watch baseball games in the local markets, and they play twice as many games. There's a lot of money to be made. So I actually think of the contracts out there, the NBA is the one with a disastrous player contract. I mean, look, you got Mike Conley making over $30 million a year. Mike Conley is fine, but that's crazy. That's crazy that a guy like Mike Conley is making over $30 million a year. So to me, this deal, again, it doesn't look that crazy. Also, I'll say this. The entire Bryce Harper free agency has been wild. Every other sport, when free agency starts, guys signed almost immediately. Can you imagine if LeBron James, or I know he's got a huge contract, Kirk Cousins, had held out and not signed until the training camp started for both teams and had like a 9-month free agency like Bryce Harper did? This is wild. This is an absolutely wild story. Funny comment there. How is this a good deal for the Phillies when it's 13 years long and AOC said the world was going to end in 12 years because of global warming? Well, it's a tough break for Bryce Harper not to get the final year on this 13-year deal because the world's going to come to an end unless we sign up for the Green New Deal, according to AOC. That is a very good point. Well raised. It's really only a 12-year deal because the world's going to come to a close in the 13th year deal. Okay, Jason Witten. This is a blockbuster bombshell of a story that you would have never believed or unless you saw it. I had to check and make sure when I saw this come across my Twitter feed that it was the actual Dallas Cowboy Twitter account putting this out and not some troll out there. Jason Witten is leaving the Monday Night Football booth to return and play another year for the Dallas Cowboys. There are a bunch of numbers out there on him, but this is a crazy story. This is an absolutely crazy story to me. Jason Witten coming back. He wants to go 8-8 for another year with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't blame Witten if he thinks he has something left. It's probably a lot more fun to play football than it is to work in the Monday Night Football booth. And I would tell you this. Overall. I think we underrate how difficult it is for athletes to retire from the perspective of they've never done anything else. If you ever know anybody who has worked in the military or anybody who has been in athletics, those jobs are very unique in that they're very scheduled, very regimented. There isn't a lot of leeway in terms of filling out your day. And I think a lot of athletes, when they finally stop playing sports at a relatively young age, have absolutely no idea what they're going to do with the rest of their lives. And I think Witten got that Monday Night Football gig sort of unexpectedly. He kind of entered into the race to see whether or not he could be an analyst. He suddenly got offered the Monday Night Football gig. He was making, $3-4 million a year to do the Monday Night Football gig, and he thought, okay, maybe this will be what I want to do after my career in football is over. And then I think he frankly just didn't like it. I don't think he liked it. I don't think he enjoyed the overall experience. I don't think he had a lot of fun calling games. And so I also don't think he enjoyed being in the media where you're in all the firing line all the time, where people are responding to you and suddenly you're on social media and people are calling out your hypocrisies or your good or bad situations in the booth. And so I think he decided, look, I've still got something left. I'm going to go back and I'm going to play again. I think this was about not being prepared to retire and not knowing what you are going to do afterwards. And I think it's very difficult for a guy who's basically been going full speed, I'm sure, playing football since he was in high school, in ninth grade in high school, all the way through playing with Tennessee. You go right into the Dallas Cowboys, and then you leave, and you have all of this other interesting opportunities, but they pale in comparison to the enjoyment from being in the locker room and being great at playing tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he'll have much actual impact on the field in terms of what he will bring to bear on the actual field for the Dallas Cowboys. But I do think this is pretty intriguing to see how this is going to be played out going forward. All right. So a couple of other things that I want to hit here as well. Who's going to replace Jason Witten on Monday Night Football? I think it's a great question. Who is going to be the Monday Night Football guy to replace Jason Witten? Will it be Booger McFarland staying there alongside of Joe Tessitore, or will they take it as an opportunity to blow up the entirety of that not very good broadcast crew and go back and redo the entire thing? I don't know what the outcome is. I do know that there are odds out there, and I'm going to run you through the list of who will replace Jason Witten. This is from Oddshark. They immediately put this out. Peyton Manning is actually the favorite at 2-1. Given the fact that ESPN pays $120 million a year per Monday Night Football game, I think they have to go out and pay as much money as they possibly can if Peyton Manning would come take over this gig. $10 million a year, whatever the number is, pay as much as you need to. Peyton Manning 2-1. Louis Riddick a little bit over 2-1. Greg Olsen, considering whether or not he's going to come out of retirement or retire for the Carolina Panthers. Kurt Warner at 9-1. Matt Hasselbeck at 9-1. Boomer Esiason at 12-1. Randy Moss at 14-1. Steve Young at 20-1. Tebow for fun at 33-1. And John Madden coming out of retirement at 100-1. I don't know who the pick is going to be, but I do think this is a difficult job, and I think it's more difficult than most people would realize because you have to be both entertaining and intelligent, and you have to walk that fine line between appealing to everyone and not being too X's and O's heavy. And that's why Romo is so incredible at how good he has done it with CBS. I think he has set an entirely high bar. And I would actually tell you this. I don't know why athletes get these jobs. I'll be honest with you. Most athletes are not Tony Romo. They're not very good on television. They don't say anything that interesting. They only go back over their own career over and over and over again. I liked personally when they actually put entertaining people in the world of sports media who had nothing to do with the actual broadcast, right? Like playing football. If you could tell me right now I could pick anyone, the number one draft pick I would pick to put in the booth for Monday Night Football, Charles Barkley. I would spend whatever it took if I were ESPN to try to put Charles Barkley in the booth with a straight man to call the game alongside of him, like Ernie Johnson. If you put Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley in the booth, maybe even with Booger McFarland, I think that would be an incredible broadcast crew, right? You could have an NFL guy in Booger. You could have Charles Barkley, who would be insanely entertaining, and you could have a guy like Ernie Johnson to handle that aspect of the job, right? Charles Barkley would dominate. A lot of old people would be like, he doesn't know the game of football that well. Football ain't that complicated, all right? Everybody likes to talk about how complicated football is. It ain't that complicated in the grand scheme of things compared to studying for the bar exam or going to med school or doing your taxes. Football's not that hard, all right? So I would put in people who are actually good. I liked when Kornheiser was doing it. I thought Kornheiser was pretty entertaining. I thought he was a bad match with Tirico because Kornheiser didn't do that much prep. I thought Dennis Miller back in the day was really good as well. I would not go after athletes exclusively because I think unless you can find a Romo-like breakdown guy, and I think Peyton Manning could be that, I think it's hard to find somebody like John Gruden who is good television and is also great at explaining the game. John Madden is rare, right? The John Maddens of the world are rare. The Tony Romos of the world are rare. I don't understand why you wouldn't try something unique there. I think it's fair to say that booth in general didn't work, right? The Booger Mobile didn't make sense. Jason Witten, a big promotion to end up in there. Joe Tessitore, it seemed like he was calling way too serious of a game. I think Joe Tessitore works in college football where he tries to make everything majestic. I don't think it worked as well for him in Monday Night Football. So I don't know who the selection is, but I would go out and find somebody who is really compelling in the booth that can help to make up for the fact that the game's not very good. I think Peyton Manning is the perfect choice if they paid him enough money and if he would do it. If not, I might put Tessitore and Booger McFarland in the booth for another year, just the two of them, and almost tank the crew for a year and then pay whatever I needed to try to steal away Tony Romo from Monday Night Football, from CBS. I would go to Romo's people, his agent over at CAA, and I'd be like, hey, whatever you do, don't sign an extension. We want you on Monday Night Football. We'll pay you $10 million a year. Don't sign an extension with CBS and then get the real battle over his salary rolling. I think that would be phenomenal to see. All right, Kyler Murray. Guys, Kyler Murray is 5'10 and 1/8. And I'm talking about his height. Kyler Murray, 5'10 and 1/8, was the number one sports story of the day until Witten came out of retirement, until Bryce Harper signed. Kyler Murray, 5'10 and 1/8 height. That is half of an inch shorter than Russell Wilson. I'm telling you right now, he is going to be the overall number one draft pick. The Cardinals are going to go get him. They're going to move Josh Rosen, or they're just going to make Josh Rosen the backup. Josh Rosen already throwing a little bit of a fit on Instagram. He has removed every different post that has the Cardinals tagged in it right now. I love when athletes get all up in their feels and go on social media and like take the team name out of their bio, or they take down all the pictures of them in their uniform. Like, how much time does that take to do? But Josh Rosen isn't a dummy. He heard his GM say when he was asked whether Josh Rosen was the quarterback, he's the quarterback for right now. For people who don't understand the significance of that right now, I would like for you to start introducing your wife as your wife right now. Here is my wife. She's my wife right now. Here is my girlfriend. She's my girlfriend right now. Good luck that night if you start introducing at a cocktail party everybody with your wife. Hey, I'm Clay Travis. This is my wife, Laura. Well, my wife, Laura, right now. Woo! Good luck with that if you're going forward with that one. If you throw in the phrase right now at any relationship that you would like to be long-term, that ain't a winner. That ain't a winner. So the GM of the Cardinals, I think, knew exactly what he was doing. I think potentially he's trying to get value for the number one overall pick. Maybe he can trade down and still get Kyler Murray. But when you put the phrase right now out there, Josh Rosen knows exactly what's going on there. Yeah, same thing. Somebody just said it's the same thing as saying introducing someone as your first wife. This is my first wife. Even before you got the second wife, not a good sign. Not a good sign on your long-term commitment. The first wife being introduced as the first wife before you get to the second wife. Right now, never a good answer. All right? Never a good answer right now. So Kyler Murray, I believe, going to be the overall number one pick. I think that Cliff Kingsbury is going to take him. And I'm curious to see what Kyler will end up running. That's going to be intriguing, but I think he's going to be the overall number 1 pick. He made the right decision not to play Major League Baseball. Finally, and I think this is intriguing. I don't know how many people are going to dive into this story. Robert Kraft has pled not guilty to his solicitation charge. Interesting story here that could be an intriguing defense. What if Robert Kraft argues that he had a pre-existing relationship with the woman who gave him a blowjob in that Asian spa? What if he could say that they had a long-term relationship and that he would, instead of going out on dates with her sometimes, go in to get a massage and they would have some sort of sexual relationship? Why couldn't he pay this woman $1 million to settle a civil claim with her? And as part of settling that civil claim, she then claims that they're in a relationship, that they dated sometimes, and that he would occasionally come by, get a massage, and that she would service him in the process, and he would just give her a tip. Tell me how that's not a potential solid defense in this story. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's a widower. He is occasionally in Jupiter, Florida. What if they went out to dinner once? What if he has been going in there and getting massages for years, and at some point the relationship in his argument turned physical, and he would just give her money like a lot of you give your girlfriends money, like a lot of you give your wives money? Why can't he just make that argument, particularly if he settles something, a claim with her from a civil perspective? Other aspect of this that I think is fascinating. The DA came out and said, oh, this is a sex slavery ring. There's sex trafficking going on. Not in that massage parlor. So far in that massage parlor, neither of the women who were charged have been proven at all to have been sex slaves. They also weren't very young, and one of the women who was charged was the Asian owner. I'm telling you right now, this is, I think, a potentially decent argument for Robert Kraft. If he can prove that he's been going in there for a long time, potentially a decade, to get massages, and then he makes the argument that at some point their relationship turned physical, I don't know why that couldn't be a decent defense. I think he needs a good attorney. I bet he's got the best attorney in South Florida. How can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that's not true if the woman will not testify on the stand, or even if the woman will come on the stand with you and say that she was in a relationship with Robert Kraft, that they used to date, or that they were currently dating, or that occasionally they would go out and grab food next door? I actually think this would be a phenomenal defense. We don't know what Robert Kraft's long-range relationship with this woman might be, but he's been a widower for 10 years. If he has been a widower for 10 years, isn't it likely that he has probably been getting happy endings to massages for a while? Maybe the reason he went there and got the happy ending, initially he was going in just wanting a regular massage. Maybe he didn't request this treatment. It just happened, and then he tipped her for it. I actually think that's really an interesting question, right? What if there's no spoken or arranged solicitation? He pays whatever it is for the massage. Then she decides of her own volition to give him a blowjob, and then he gives her a $100 tip for the massage and the blowjob. Is that illegal if it wasn't agreed to before? I don't know what the situation is, but to me, soliciting a blowjob would require some sort of negotiation. If she does it on her own, and then you're just giving her extra money as a tip for the massage, I actually think he's got quite a few defenses here. And I don't blame him for pleading not guilty. I'm curious what exactly is going to happen here with this situation. All right. I love all of you. I got to go hop on television. I'll be on Lock It In, 4:30 Eastern here in about 30 minutes, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. I hope all of you are having fantastic Thursdays wherever you may be. If you're just tuning in now, we talked about Bryce Harper's deal. We talked about Jason Witten, who's going to replace him on Monday Night Football. Kyler Murray being 5'10", and the fact that I believe he'll be the first overall pick, and Robert Kraft pleading not guilty. I love all of you, boys and girls. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. This has been Outkick the Show. I'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, talking a lot about this with John Morosi and others. We'll also have a couple of guys up at the Combine. Thanks for hanging with me here on Outkick the Show. Go to MyBookie if it's legal in your jurisdiction. Code is Clay50 and you get a 50% sign-up bonus. Kiss y'all. Kisses, whatever you do. Don't say she's your girlfriend or your wife right now. Good luck with that one if you do. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See ya.